Thank you, Mr. Adderholt. And the chair recognizes Representative Grace Meng for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our witnesses for your work and for being here today. I actually wanted to follow up on Mr. Adderholt's questioning about social media. Platforms like Twitter and Facebook have really played a central role in elevating conspiracy theories, hate, bigotry. And while some of these companies have occasionally banned from their platforms certain individuals or dangerous rhetoric, there are still other social media apps like a Parler, Telegraph, or even Signal. And I just wanted to know what some of these companies can do. And I know that I've heard that platforms like Signal, for example, are even harder to sort of monitor. So what can these companies do better, and what can Congress do? And second part of this question, are there any noticeable trends after the January 6th insurrection that you're seeing with how domestic right-wing groups are using some of these platforms?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I'll start. We have a very good relationship with a lot of the private sector partners that you mentioned in your question. And so that relationship is always increasing, and I'm encouraged by the cooperation with them. And I think one of the important things about the partnership that we have with them that we've learned is very fruitful is when we can educate them on the things that they should be worried about, the threats that we collectively are facing. It allows them to be very thoughtful and mindful about that when they build out, say, a terms of use agreement with the user. And so I think that that is one way that we are partnering with them. In fact, there's a specific section inside the Counterterrorism Division that focuses on nothing but those sort of strategic private sector partners. As far as the second half of your question on trends, I don't know that it's unique or anything new, but oftentimes across both international and domestic terrorism, we see individuals potentially initiate their first sort of relationship or connection with, say, a like-minded individual in the open sort of social media forum, but then often they look to move those conversations to some sort of encrypted application.
Thank you. I also wanted to ask about of some of these right-wing extremist groups. There are anecdotes of affinities between American-based right-wing groups and those abroad. They may feed off each other, and while we can ban certain individuals from visiting the U.S., we can't stop their hateful ideas from proliferating across the internet. So I just wanted to ask about your concerns about domestic groups potentially sharing info with international groups and vice versa. And are there gaps in your efforts to understand some of these efforts, and what additional resources or personnel could you need?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. I mean, I would tell you, having grown up sort of working international terrorism for most of my career, I'll never be at a point where I think I have the intel I need. I always want more, so there's always gaps. I'd also say we don't necessarily, I think it's important to lay this foundation, we do not investigate ideology or groups. But to your question about sort of the foreign connection, obviously, and this is across all threats that the FBI faces, the internet poses the potential and allows for the facilitation of like-minded individuals to link up across the globe. And so we are always looking for individuals here in the United States that may be reaching out to foreign entities and using that link up to then incite violence or mobilize to violence here in the United States. And so one of the ways we tackle that is with our legal attaché program and try to work very closely with our foreign partners to see what indicators and warnings we can get of potential violence, not only here in the United States, but overseas.
Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you, Representative Meng. At this time, the chair recognizes Congressman Klein for 5 minutes of questions.